Hey everybody, we're back with another edition Projects with Foster here, and today I'm going to show you how to use our portable router, our hand router. And what we're doing is I've got my drawing here for my name sign, right? So one of the first projects we do in shop is a hand router name sign. So I've drawn it out full scale and I'm okay with that design, and so I transferred that onto my wood. So here I've got my letters and I've got them all shaded in so that I can see them. It's going to be much easier to find that and follow along. So now I'm going to use the portable router to router those letters in. So this is our router. This is sometimes known as a laminate router. I've heard them called peanut routers. It's a smaller one. There are larger ones that have two handles. But this is a great little tool. You can do a million things with them just by changing out the bit. Right now we have just a straight flush cut bit, you would call it, that we're going to use for carving our letters. But we'll show you the table router a little bit later. But the beauty of the router is once you change the bit, you can do a lot of different things with it. So it's a real simple tool as far as it's just a motor up here that has a collet or chuck here where the bit is attached, and you can adjust the height of this and depending on how deep you want it to cut. Other than that, some of them have a speed adjustment to them. These do not, but it is a very powerful tool. This thing can spin at over, this it says 35,000 RPM. So this thing's really spinning. And 1 horsepower doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're holding on to it, it is. It's a real powerful tool. So a couple things about these. Number one, never set them down on the bit. That's obviously not good. This is very high carbon steel and is fairly brittle. Number two, before you turn this thing on, make sure that power on the tool is off. And if you look at these switches, it got what looks like a 0 and a 1. That's sort of international symbol for electrical, right? So the 0 means it's an open circuit or it's off, and the 1 is on. If you plug this in and it's on, it will start jumping around, and obviously you never want to have a power tool get out of your control, and if there's somebody else around, obviously. So when you do turn on your power tools, number one, make sure it's off, and then when you plug it in, hold on to both cords for a second. If you think you hear that thing start to turn on, then unplug it, okay? So you've got it plugged in, you're ready to go. The next thing is when you bring it to here, for what we're doing plunging, and there are some that have like a spring-loaded plunger that you could just go straight up and down, but for us, what you're gonna do is you're gonna set it on the base. So it's secure against my wood, and when I turn it on, then I'm just gonna tilt it towards me, and then that bit will go down in there. One of the things about these bits is they spin a certain way, and there's a little arrow on here that tells me which way that spins. You always, always, always want to go against that. So if my bit is spinning this way, I wouldn't want to go with that, because then it grabs the wood and it wants to get out of your hand, and you don't want that. I can't say go left to right or right to left, because if I go across the top of this board, right, with this bit spinning this way, I'm going to go right to left. Whereas if I'm going this side of the board, I'm going to go left to right. When we get to the table routers, because it's mounted underneath there, you're always going the same direction. But keep that in mind. We're kind of, as we do these letters, we're going to go sort of both directions, which is a little bit different than doing an edge like that. Couple other things about this is once I've got it plunged in there, I'm going to move it carefully down my letter, and then I'm going to turn it off. And I'm going to wait for it to stop spinning. It only takes a second, but if you don't, guarantee every time you pick it up, that groove that this just cut is the same width as that bit. You're always going to chip out the top of it. So just leave it a second, let it slow down, let it stop spinning before you get it up. Okay? Another thing about this, so as I prepare to do this, I want to make sure my material is secure, is clamped down. I could use one of these vices, but a lot of times, you know, they're not available, they're busy. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in one of my Jorgensen clamps, and I'm going to tighten it down nice and secure. All right, so this is in a clamp, another way to use a clamp, right? I'm not necessarily clamped down to anything yet, but I want to make sure this doesn't move on me, okay? So could I do it this way? Sure. Could I do it upside down? Doesn't matter at all. Whatever seems comfortable to you, do it that way. So now I need to clamp this down, obviously, and so I'm going to sit here and I'm going to work in this direction. So I could use another Jorgensen, and I could clamp that down. Again, you got to get down. You got to see that you got that right. Sometimes those will move. And that's pretty good. That's not going anywhere. I could put another clamp on that if I wanted to, but I don't think I need to. Plus, I've got to have room to move that base around, right? When we do our letters, we're leaving at least a ½ inch on all sides when we do this. One reason being when we come back and do the table router, we want to have space for that. But also, this base wants to rest securely on my material, right? So when you plunge that down, before you start moving, make sure you're nice and flat. As you get closer to the edge of this, you don't have that nice platform for that base to sit on. So you want to leave yourself a little bit of space around the edge of this. So now I'm going to plug this in, click. I make sure that that is off. My cord is out of the way. Plug it in. Listening to see that thing doesn't start hopping around on the table. All right, I'm good. So now it's one of those tools, ear protection, hearing protection is not a bad idea. It's pretty loud when we get 20 of these things going in the shop. It's chaos. But right now all I want is to make sure I got good eye protection. A face shield isn't a bad idea when you're using one of these. I've got my good glasses here. So again, I'm going to try to start up here at the top of my R. I'm going to have this lean back, click it on. Once it's up to speed, then I plunge it down so that the bit's down there, the base is flat, and then I'm just going to move it towards me to the bottom of this. Don't have to try to get it all the first cut. I don't have to like do the R and then come back up while it's still running and try to do that. I'm going to do the simple part first. And I've got an S to do, I've got an O to do. Those are going to be a little tricky. So I'm going to start with an easy one and kind of get my feel of the tool. Okay, so again, I'm very focused on what I'm doing. I've got a nice secure grip on this. When I start this up, there's some torque in that motor and you'll feel it. And I just want to make sure that I'm holding tight to this. And I'm ready to go. So I line this up, I see where my corner is here, I tilt it back slightly, turn it on, and then plunge it down. Turn it off, wait for it to stop, and then lift it straight up. So when you do this, a lot of times you end up with a groove that's full of sawdust. So you want to get that out once you're done and see how it looks. Not the worst. Pretty good job for keeping it straight. So that's our technique. I'm going to come back and do the round there. A little bit trickier to go around that corner. But again, I'm keeping it face towards me, so I'm looking down into the front of it where it's got that gap in there. I'm not going to try to start it down in my groove because I know that's going to mess it up as well. So I line myself up. Let it come to a stop, and then I can pick it up. So there you go. That's our hand router. One of the first tools we use, a really versatile tool out in the real world. You can use for all kinds of things. And in this case, we are using it to carve out our letters here. All right, I hope you learned something from that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time.